It's late evening here in the Pleasance Brooks Bar, and I am just going to record this video with a lot of noise in the background, which is fine. There's conversation happening and I'm having a cup of tea, and I'm also reflecting on conversations I've been having in the last couple of days, also workshops that we've been running, particularly on turning around your fringe if you're having a bad time, how to build ticket sales, how to get reviews and so on. And the word of the day today sounds quite a dark word, is resentment. And that resentment is, I think, particularly prevalent as the fringe gets towards halfway and beyond, and things build up. And I'm noticing this past resentment, which is, I heard a conversation between two people who perform the same show at different parts of the world, and there's kind of like, I call it ice cream van wars. There's a bit of rivalry between them. And that leads to kind of conversations around resentment about the other show or the other person. And I don't see it benefiting either of the performers to have that resentment. And I think that it's probably better that they just clear it up or let it go. It certainly doesn't seem to add to energy or strengthen anybody. And the people listening into it, also you can sense they're wanting to turn away from it. So I probably said before, don't bring that bad energy to the fringe, but get it sorted, have that conversation, invite it, and you'll probably find that clearing the air is a really good idea. And resentment and clearing the air go together. Other resentment is resentment towards press offices, resentment for the deal that we've struck and we're not getting the audiences, and we're starting to calculate what that means for us, and then that leads to my press office is doing nothing for me, my flyers aren't flyering properly for me, the people that run the venue don't seem very interested in my show. It can be resentment towards reviewers. That reviewer came in and they sat in the front row and started to write notes, and I found it very threatening or annoying. It can be audience members making noise, and all of these things might be rooted in some form of truth, but all they're doing is stealing energy, and it's probably better to just let off steam, say it all once, and then do something about it or let it go. Doing something about it is probably not ideally born of the resentment, so you don't go in and start being offensive in your press office, and you might find that they've got their own resentment and things have built up and we're actually in conflict. And sometimes that can involve going to the fringe office, who can offer some form of mediation, which they do offer if conflict happens. But growing resentment is mostly again about facing it off in a respectful, real conversation and trying to clear the air. Sometimes resentment also is better turned into reconciliation and apology, even if you said things you regret. It's better sorted out. It's better to go into the final half of the fringe with the air cleared and you feeling like you're not carrying resentment with you. You've got contracts. You can invoke contracts and say, we're not getting the reviews you said you'd get us. And that doesn't need to be done offensively, and people do get defensive. But ultimately, there's always a way. You might need to get a third person involved. It might be the person in your cast that's actually got the diplomatic skills, isn't the director who's sounding off. Now, I'm not in any way trying to say the things you're resentful about aren't based on justification, but the resentment itself carried is a kind of creeping kind of pain, ache, energy stealer, time stealer, and ultimately demotivator, and you can get tired from it. So where you can you lose the resentment, or is it better resolved through conversation and conflict resolution and getting to the root causes of it and dealing with it? And if you're holding it inside and you haven't spoken to anybody, this is when a phone call home, a phone call to a friend, a conversation with somebody who asks you how you are, and go confidential with it, but see if you can let off a bit of steam and get a bit of objective feedback. Sometimes the resentment just festers and it's grown and grown, and actually the cause of it is much smaller than the resulting resentment. Now, this is all very easily for me, sitting, relaxing, having a cup of tea late at night, sounding very wise, and it's not again to diminish how hard it can be to drop resentment, but resentment can create mental health issues up here, well-being issues, and it's still better to dialogue around them. My own view sometimes is inquiry is better than advocacy, and all I mean by that is sometimes if you do sit down with the person you feel resentful about, or you're talking through it with a friend, is don't always have the answers, but to actually ask questions. Do you think I'm overreacting? Do you think I'm being unreasonable? Do you have any ideas for ways I can get out of this? And a little bit of informal, friendly coaching can be good, but also getting some professional help if it's really bad is also helpful. But ultimately the message is still here. Growing, festering resentment, even if it's based in truth, is better sorted out than carried over time. And particularly if that energy starts to come into the second half of the Fringe, it kind of feeds on itself and can become a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy. Better to go to the root cause, put the kettle on, invite someone for a drink, go slowly and gently, breathe it out, and if it's not working, the conflict resolution, cut it short and say let's talk another time, and see if you might get a third person involved. But don't keep it inside. It's better out than in. You can just get resentment in terms of resentment towards yourself, and that's the worst one of the lot, is to start blaming yourself, start talking yourself down. And we had a workshop where one of my colleagues' friends, JD Henshaw, used to run venues here and runs venues now, and Dundee Fringe Festival, pointed out again that the worst thing to do is to start beating yourself up. You've come to the world's largest arts festival, and if you can, feel a sense of celebration and a sense of privilege that you've made it here. And actually you might be overblowing the measures. You've set the wrong measures, you've set the bar too high, and when you're not hitting those targets, you start to feel resentment, blaming other people, but worst of all, blaming yourself. Now, I haven't met most of you, just a human being, and I got seriously ill a few years ago, and it would be very easy to shake my fist at the stars, blame other people, but actually I didn't. And I think a big part of getting well was to not carry resentment, which I think has measurable consequences and measurable stress, and feeling downhearted and not eating well and not sleeping well because you're carrying it with you. But don't target yourself. You're up here. I think you're probably doing your best. And again, a problem shared is a problem halved. And if you've got a supportive friend that can remind you of your virtues and not just your weaknesses, that can help. So I'm sitting here in a noisy bar. It's actually quite low energy here. I'm noticing, and one of the reasons you might be feeling resentment is it feels like at least parts of the Fringe are down on last year, that bars are emptier, that ticket sales are not going, and that's not your fault. Sometimes the bigger issues, sometimes called the externalities, which we can't always foresee, are things that we shouldn't necessarily hold resentment for, not certainly at the Fringe, but to recognise certain things are out of our control and set different measures. You might not get reviews that put bums on seats, but you might get a good review to take away before the end. This could just be an opportunity to learn, reflect and experiment, or just realise certain things are out of your control, and just, I like the word equanimity, it's just to be a bit level-headed and accept what's happening. But ultimately, I'm still inviting you to see resentment in a way as gently as you can, as something that's a bit of an enemy. Don't get resentful towards resentment, but certainly be a little bit of intolerant of it, and try and clear the air so you can breathe the clear air tomorrow morning and enjoy the second half of the Fringe.